Hi, thanks so much for joining me. I'm King Loki. I'm the editor of Death Wish Poetry magazine and the host of the Demon Toast podcast. And I'd like to thank you for checking out this video. This is a series where I interview the writers that are published through Death Wish, whether that's through our digital magazine or our upcoming physical magazine, to be announced very soon. I just want you to know that our writers come from all walks of life. Some of them are experienced, seasoned, practiced writers with books and publications that span digital and print, and others are just starting out. Some of them are my age, in their 30s. Others are in their 20s, and still others are even older than me. And I just think it's fantastic that we here at Death Wish Poetry can cast a shadow like that, as broad and dark, that allows all these different incredibly talented individuals to shine. So hi, I'm King Loki. This is our writer spotlight for Death Wish Poetry magazine. We're here today with one of our writers, Matt Ten-Hoeve. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful. How are you doing tonight?
Very good. You're one of the few that gets it right, so I appreciate that.
Well, Howev didn't seem right, so you know. I noticed that in your biography, you mentioned that you write for a wrestling site. Tell us about that.
I do. It is for free. I'm kind of a freelance writer, but it's a website that I've been reading actually since I was in high school, to the point where I used to go to that website because I could not afford to buy the shows. So I would read their reports and I would follow along on the website while the show was happening live. This way I was informed and can talk about it with my friends the next day. And now I actually do some of those reports for them, so it's kind of come full circle. So I do some live reporting, just kind of like the play-by-play action, so that the people like me from high school who, don't buy the show can just read what's happening. And then every once in a while, if I have the time, I'll write an article or two, which is fun. I enjoy it.
Absolutely. I mean, in this space, it's pretty common for writers to be forced to have to build a CV and a backlog, not being paid. So, I feel that. But at the end of the day, I say this as a poet myself and a writer myself. It's about the art, right?
Absolutely.
I have a little joke I tell a lot. There's a difference between a poet and a park bench. One of these things can support a small family on it, But that's neither here nor there. So, I thought that was fun because, I like watching WE. It's probably the lowest form of theater, but it is. The things they pull off are spectacular. Do you have any interest in that field?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's what I write about. It's the pro wrestling. So every once in a while, I'll get called in to do the WWE shows and do the play by play. But what I do for PWInsider.com is every Thursday I do the TNA coverage, which is it's not technically an independent promotion because they are on TV, but they've been around for about 23 years now, and they actually reached a partnership with WWE. So if you watch the Royal Rumble, you might have seen Joe Hendry. He's the TNA champion. Everybody believes in him. And so I basically do the coverage for TNA every week, and then the pay-per-views, and every once in a while, those articles that I was talking about before.
Yeah, that's cool because I took a look and I saw a lot of the Ultimate Fighter Championship stuff,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's pretty rad. So obviously, you were in our winter edition. You published a story with us called "A Happy Choice," a very very existential, slow build kind of story with a really really heavy ending there.
Yeah.
Really really liked it. The theme obviously with our winter edition was hibernation, settling down, and fit right in there. Hang on, I got the wrong file here. Just a second. So. I wanted to ask. Is the name you're here, Matt Ten-Hoeve? Is that a pen name? Is there a story behind that?
So for Matt Ten-Hoeve, that's just me.
That's just your name. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's just me. I was born with it, and it's a different, unique name, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't see it too often, I guess. I've only met one other non-family member that's a Ten-Hoeve in the wild. So honestly, when I started dabbling with writing, a lot of greats have had pen names, and I'm assuming have a pen name. I was like, you know what? Let me just stick with me.
Cool. That's great.
Let me be me.
Yeah, no, I self-publish my books under my legal name, Daniel Sokoloff, but King Loki is this larger-than-life persona I do for Death Wish.
Yeah, it's
And,
fun.
it's fantastic. But I really did think that was probably a pen name. I don't really care personally. I mean, we have another
Yeah,
raider named
absolutely.
Marissa Jade, and I thought that might have been a Star Wars reference, which it's not. That's
Gotcha.
just her name. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So I don't know. What are some of your major influences? When it comes to writing, obviously
Yeah.
the wrestling stuff is going to be very functional, right? Utilitarian, but
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to writing, honestly, what made me want to be a writer or at least get interested in writing was Edgar Allan Poe. I was introduced to him at a very young age, believe it or not, and you got something? Yeah, he's my man.
Mr. Poe.
Yeah, so it was like, I think it was in fifth grade, if I remember correctly, my music teacher. He wanted to turn the Telltale Heart into like a little, like basic, like a little ditty. Like we had to like read it and then turn it into like a little song. And at the time, I really enjoyed it. Looking back now, maybe fifth grade was a little, too young for that. But I'm speaking now as a seventh grade English teacher who teaches Edgar Allan Poe, so that's only 2 extra years. But it was interesting. I thought it was such a heavy, deep topic that we were turning into a music piece. But it was really the words that resonated with me and just the way that he brought such a gruesome, story to life. And I was just fixated on that. And then when I found out that there were other short stories and poems, I gobbled them up. And Poe was definitely my first major influence. As I got older, it turned into John Steinbeck and J.D. Salinger, kind of a little bit stereotypical, but they're amazing.
No, Steinbeck is fantastic. I think he's a little underrated in academia, personally. I mean, I've had professors that just didn't care for him personally. But getting back to Mr. Poe, I mean, he's the king. For most of my life, I didn't want to know about his life. I just wasn't interested. Like I had a rough enough time being a fan of Lovecraft. Enough said. Our first episode of our podcast, actually, we talked about his romance with Sarah Helen Whitman, poet he almost married, and it was pretty hard because I had to do a lot of research, and he was kind of an asshole, but a lot of artists are, so
That's true.
we're going through it with Gaiman and Marilyn Manson and
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling, and it's like, don't meet your heroes. But no, Mr. Poe, the Telltale Heart, it's one of the greatest stories ever written. The way he describes the old man's eye, and this guy's fucking insane, but you're there with him, and you're like,
Exactly.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about Poe is like he lends himself very well to music. Not just like lyrical poetry like The Raven. Of course, there's the bells with his usage of language and onomatopoeia. Like the man was a genius.
Absolutely. I don't know if you're aware, but I'm actually maybe 10 years ago, there was a Broadway play all about his life. And I went and I'm sitting there, and it was, at first, the person who was playing Edgar Allan Poe looked nothing like Edgar Allan Poe. And then the music was like very like the music behind it was a little bit upbeat, and then it would get a little bit dark. And I'm sitting there, and the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I hate this. Like as a Poe lover,
It's garbage. Yeah.
But then they started like really diving into his works, and like the music changed, and the scenery got darker. I was into it.
Cool.
There was a song that featured the Raven, poem that honestly it's still on my playlist to this day. Can't get enough of that one song for sure. But it just to kind of reiterate what you said, there is music to Poe for sure, and that play really captured it.
Yeah, people describe him as a drunk and whatever. He was, but he didn't write like a drunk, so. I definitely feel that. There's a lot of, he's a pop cultural icon. There was that stupid movie with, who was that? Russell Crowe or something?
Yeah,
The Raven.
John Cusack maybe.
John Cusack with the dumb haircut. Yeah, I didn't watch that. Yeah, I people at my day job don't even know who Poe is. Like, this one guy was like, was he on TV? And I'm just like, looking at him like... Anyway, no, for sure. We'll be here all night talking about Mr. Poe, but...
Yeah, we could.
I wanted to talk about you, so... This is the struggle. So, Happy Choice, it's a slow build. Its conclusion, I wrote here, it holds its conclusion tight in its palm like a sharp poisoned barb. You know what I mean? How would you just that's me though. How would you describe the story? Is there any like sentiment about it or background you'd like to share about it?
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, I'm assuming anybody who's maybe, who's watching this probably read, the work, or hopefully they did. I don't know, but so I don't want to like spoil too much. But
Well, I will say that we do start really promoting stuff this month. If there aren't any eyes on it yet, I mean there will be. So it's up to you.
okay. Well, I'll say this. I actually loved your description of it. Kind of wrote it better than I can really write myself about the story. But
Well, it's my job.
I appreciate that. It's I guess with the story, I like that you recognize that it was such a slow build. I definitely did that on purpose, and it's one of the things that I tend to enjoy when it comes to whether it's a TV show, a movie, or even a book. A lot of people will stop reading a book after 100 pages just because kind of nothing happened, and things happen. I mean, maybe you're not enjoying it, and I can respect that, but like things are happening and bubbling. And I didn't, obviously I didn't write more than 100 pages, but I thought that things were bubbling as I was trying to tell the story. And, I kind of wanted to make it seem like my main character, Tim, was truly just having a normal day, a kind of a fun day, a day off. And in some ways, I wanted the reader to just be like, man, Tim's having a great day. And then at the end, when Tim makes his happy choice, it turns out that he was having such a great day because, in his opinion, he was having such a horrible life.
Yes.
So, I when it comes to the sentiment behind it, I just wanted to maybe, just showcase that something. It's not always just surface. You never know what somebody's going through. Just because it seems like he's having a phenomenal day doesn't mean that he is.
Yeah. I mean, not too long ago we lost Chester Bennington. Who knows what was
Yes.
going on in his head? You know what I mean? And Chris Cornell shortly after.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
it wasn't just those two, but it was some other things. But like those two losses kind of hit me pretty hard. I'm not in the right room, but I have a huge piece of artwork that has Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, who's luckily still with us. Man, no, I can't remember their names. Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, and Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland.
Scott Weiland,
And,
yeah. Did he die?
Four out of the five are gone. And they had such a huge impact on me in the 90s and even early 2000s as I was replaying their music.
Yeah.
So when Chester, who's not on that, which I wish he was, but when Chester and Chris, took their lives, it was something that really stuck with me. And, I'm just a fan, but, you think like these people making millions of dollars would just be happy, but you never know.
You don't. It's rough too. I mean, obviously he didn't kill himself, but I mean, you could consider a heroin overdose a form of suicide, I suppose. Odor Shirunga, Dave Brockie from Gwar. I mean,
Absolutely.
I wasn't like a fan of Gwar at the time when he passed, but like when I heard that story in that documentary, I felt the loss. It was devastating, and when I see them live, it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Chester was a really. I mean, I don't know. You seem like you're my age. I'm 34.
38, so not
Okay.
too far off.
Yeah, I think we're the same generation technically. Yeah, no, Lincoln Park was there for me through some really hard times, man.
Yeah, me too.
So-
That hybrid theory was on repeat.
Yeah, yeah. Hybrid Theory and Meteora were, and like it's funny. I can look back at like hard times in my life and be like, oh yeah, that was when 1,000 Suns came out. I was listening to that over, just.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now they're back with their new singer, and it's just like, you got to earn the love, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Super talented, not the same.
No.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your process? I mean, what do you go through when you're writing? I'm assuming Happy Choice, that was a very polished story. There's no way that was your first story or your last. So,
I appreciate that.
it's true.
Honestly, so my process is, I think, I don't know, maybe weird. I actually don't get to write as much as I want to when it comes to fiction. Mostly because I'm a teacher, and that's not an excuse. But when I do get home, my free time is either thinking about work and how I could have done a lesson better, or grading some work or grading some papers, or if there's nothing to do, honestly, I am just relaxing because the day takes a lot out of me. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love my job, but
For sure.
it's nice to kind of sit down and just decompress. So when I do write, honestly, the process is usually what comes to mind first tends to be just a simple big moment that's going to happen in the story. And that big moment usually, in my mind, is towards the end, if not the end, which I know is working backwards a little bit, but I think of it almost like following a GPS. If you know your destination, then you know how to get there. So if you follow the directions, then you'll get to your destination. And I kind of work backwards, where I know, or at least I think I know where my destination is, and then it's up to me to kind of fill in how to get there. And then, so I usually think of at least, one big moment, and then it's up to my mind to, figure out how to get there. And sometimes it's pretty straightforward and the easiest directions that you'll ever get, just make a right turn here and then a left there, and then you're there. And then sometimes, you get lost and you get in traffic, and next, you're taking jug handles, getting, taking the wrong exit, and coming back to it, So the process is basically, I tend to know the ending, but let me see what happens and see if I get there. And sometimes, honestly, as I'm taking that road, the ending does change, as all writers can probably attest to.
Sure. Yeah. If I didn't know you were from New Jersey, mentioning jug handles would have let me know. So I don't know who designed those roads, but he was not human,
I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Nah, it sucks. I hate driving out there. But needless to say, no, yeah, I'm very fond of George R. R. Martin's quote about writers. Have you heard it?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, no. Whatever you think of Game of Thrones, I mean, the show's a disaster, and I don't care about the property anymore because of that, because he let that happen. But it's his fault. But needless to say, I think he's a very talented writer, and he has quite the quote. He says that there's two kinds of writers, There's architects. They know every single thing, every plot twist, every character's backstory, and they sit down and they write it, and it's done. And they move on to the next part. And then there's gardeners. They plant their seeds, they till this, oh no, this plant is dying, I gotta take it out and put something else there, the soil's on me. That's how I roll, and there's no shame in starting at the end. I think that's how Doyle did it, frankly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, however you get there, but that's cool. Do you find that writer's block is an issue? I find that it's generally a problem with planning, but I mean, do you hit those walls?
All the time, absolutely. In fact, I have works that are started.
Yeah.
And nowhere near finished. And I know where I want to go at the end, but I have no idea what the middle is whatsoever. And I have sat down and tried to outline, try to plan, and I'm just not happy with it, and it's just a complete block. There was also, I will flat out admit, there was a years gap in between some writings, just because of various things. Part of it time, part of it just because my mind just wasn't seeing fiction, really. I was actually getting my master's and getting my career going, and I think it was maybe 7 years, believe it or not, between finishing one story and then finishing another story after that. And part of it was literally just my mind could not see, what to write. Yeah,
I definitely feel that, and that's the thing. I mean, it's real rich for Stephen King or whoever to these millionaires who have movie royalties coming in. And, I think working class writers like me and you, I mean, that's just not a reality all the time, And when it's someone like me or you, where you're not just working your day job, you're also doing 100 other projects. Well, it's going to take a toll. I mean, I have a novel I've been working on it was supposed to be done after a few months, but Death Wish and Demon Toast and my wretched job and all that stuff, all that nourishkeit that just takes over your life. I mean, yeah, no, that's fair. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think that writers are generally, even when they're not putting pen to paper, there's still stuff being built there. It just might be at a subconscious level,
Very real. I was just saying, I 1000% agree. Even now, like when I feel like my writer's block is a lot better, and I am actually starting to, be better at putting words on the screen or paper. When I can't,
Yeah.
I do feel the wheels turning,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
even if I can't get to a piece of paper or a screen and just type a couple words, my mind is trying to remember exactly what is formulating back there. And, even things that I'm not working on, my mind is like, hey, how about this idea? And I'm like, all right, mind, that's enough. Like, I got enough going on. Then now I'm getting pulled in like a third direction, and I don't know. I think it's definitely not writer's block, but it's not helping the process on like one project.
Writing is work. I mean, like, there. My father's girlfriend got me this shirt. It had like pens on it, and it said like, weapons of mass creation. And I'm like, I'm never gonna wear this. I don't like the. I'm not into the whole writer. I'm a writer thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, obviously,
Absolutely.
like I do all this, but like, I don't know. There's like a lot of like, I don't know what the word is, clout chasing, identity, and it's just like, are you writing anything? Are you creating anything? And I just think that like, it really is a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my novel can wait,
It's true. So I don't know. As an older, more experienced writer, I mean, I find personally that the meaning of like success is very malleable. Like, how do you perceive that word? Like from your vantage point.
Yeah, that's a great
When we're
question.
talking about art
And I
specifically, you know
appreciate
what I mean?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying
It's one we all
experienced.
struggle with.
I'll accept the older, but experienced. I'm still working on the experience. But when it comes to success and when it comes to art, writing, drawing, painting, just creating, right? I like to just think of it, and maybe this is the teacher in me. I don't know, but did you have fun, and are you proud of yourself? That's kind of my success. Don't get me wrong. Will I accept some money? Sure. Will I accept my name getting out there a little bit? Sure. But at the end, I just like, did I enjoy the process of that creation? And am I proud of it? And if the answer is yes to both of those, then I think that it's a successful creation, a successful experience, and that's why I have a lot of really awesome students, and they're always trying to just chase that A, and like, did I get an A? Did I get 100? And they come to me with their writings, and they're like, I don't know if this is good enough, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is and maybe it's not. And yeah, I know I'm technically the judge of it here, but like, I'm not the only judge in the world. So like, whether I like it or not, yeah, it impacts your grade, but it doesn't impact your life, like, so like, did you have fun writing it, and are you proud of it? And if you are, then most likely, like, you're gonna get a good grade, but more importantly, you had a good experience.
I think
So
that's a yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great answer. I could tell you now, like, I know people who are a little more successful than I am who actually, they publish with the big. I'm not naming any names here, but they feel like they're spinning their wheels all the time.
yeah,
Trying they're chasing book deals and all this mishugas, and it's just like I reached a point pretty quickly where I was sort of like, I could keep like looking for an agent, or I could just like self-publish and write my next book, and I've been happier ever since because I'm writing what makes me happy. You know what I mean? And like, it's not garbage. I don't just write it and publish it. It's like it's a whole nightmarish process. But like, I mean, there are writers who like get big corporate contracts and they're in Barnes and Noble for like a month or two and it doesn't sell and it just disappears. So yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we don't really live in a culture that treats art with respect all the time, and I think that like that kind of stuff's got to be nurtured and nourished, and it's very existential in its way. So yeah, I think it's great that you have that outlook. It's definitely the right one to have, I think, especially in this space. So yeah, I wanted to, I think the fact that you're a teacher is really, really cool. I worked in education very briefly. I was a substitute teacher. It was, right when I finished college. It was, it wasn't quite for me. I didn't have the time to go back to school either. It was a thing. But I think that the fact that you do that, it takes a lot of fortitude. My boyfriend's mother is a teacher actually, so
oh,
it's a
awesome.
very important job, especially, you know, where we are now as a country. But
Yeah.
does being a teacher kind of influence your voice or how you write or how you think?
Yeah, I guess so.
Hmm.
One of the things I love about teaching is that because I work with angsty, weird teenagers all day, they keep me really young, you know. So I'm approaching, I'm getting close to 40. I'm going to be 39 next month. As
Right.
you can kind of see, I didn't cut my hair this week, so I am, balding a little bit. I'm getting gray. But they keep
On
me really young.
the horror. Yeah.
When it comes to, having a voice, I feel like I do have the ability to like switch, and understand and really kind of have different characters if need be. My family growing up and even now, like I have grumpy old men in the family. You have me who's like, the middle tier, and then I don't have any kids, but my students are my kids. So like I just feel like I have a wide spectrum of how people talk, how people think. And if it wasn't for the students, I don't know if I would have like the younger voice and the understanding of how to, insert things that are still kind of relatable to today, and I think in a lot of ways, like Happy Choice, not to go back to self-promoting here, but like, Happy Choice is very heavy about mental health. And, today, I mean, it always was, but even especially today, mental health is just so important and so topical. And, so many people are trying to take care of themselves, but also are lost some on how to do so. I do think, like, luckily in today's world, there are a lot of options. But it's tough. So being a teacher, I get to see how kids are dealing with things. I know how I'm dealing with things. I know how I see the world, but I also know how the kids see the world. And I'm able to bring kind of a nice mesh of that into the writing.
Yeah, definitely. I took it's been a minute since I read it, but I took a happy choice to be, the story of essentially a younger person anyway. And it felt very genuine in that respect because like I love to talk about Lovecraft because he is like such a fascinating writer. Besides the racism and all that wonderful stuff, he just can't write dialogue at all. And it's because he sat in his room all the time and corresponded through letters because he was a freaking incel. I know it was the 30s, but still, you know the type. And like like you're very good at writing dialogue, as it were. I think.
I appreciate that. That's kind of what it's like. I'm not the biggest fan of myself as a writer.
Well,
But when it comes to dialogue, I do think that dialogue is something that I'm pretty proud of when it comes to dialogue. I'm still trying to work on the details of the details.
sure.
But, dialogue is something that I feel like I have a little bit of a solid grasp of.
Yeah, you should always. I'm very hard on myself, and it does help because like writing is an egotistical thing just inherently. It does help to be aware of your flaws. So certainly, yeah, I feel that. I did want to ask, are there any other projects you're working on? Like,
Yeah, I am, I'm trying to work on a few things now that we talked about, getting past that writer's block. It's just a matter of finding the time to sit down and really get things done. So, truth be told, I'm kind of in the process and I'm kind of ping-ponging back and forth between two ideas for novels, or at the very least, like a novella. I have the ending, like I said before, for both. And I am outlining the rest of it. For both, I have about between 20 to 40 pages already for both.
mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of sitting down, outlining more, brainstorming more, and then of course getting it done.
Yeah, hardest part.
Easier said than done. I have a couple other like short stories that I'm trying to fine tune, that I work on in the interim when I'm still thinking about the other two things that are in the background.
Yeah.
But that the writing that I've been doing for the wrestling website, also kind of like keeps me fresh. So like right now, all of the creative stuff is on the back burner just a tiny bit, just because I have two articles I really want to write for the wrestling website. So those aren't stories. Those are just kind of two articles that I have going in the head. So I want to try to get those out within the next like week or so. But yeah, I feel like I'm finally at a point in my life where I am writing at least maybe 4 times a week for a couple hours. It's not consistently, unfortunately, on one thing, but it's writing.
Yeah, that's just reality, though. I think it's cool. I try not to have too many balls in the air myself. I mean, I have my one novel I'm writing, and so I'd finish it, I ended up scrapping a bunch of other things. That's just it's just the reality of it. You run out of time. Do you think you would chase a publisher, or would you look at self-publishing?
It's a great question, because for me, I don't. Again, you've been very kind, but like when I do look at my writing, I'm like, will a publisher actually be interested in this? You don't know until you try, though. So I do think like when I do finish a novel, I might, send it out just to see, with no expectations, with the understanding that probably if I send it to 100 places, there's a good chance I'll get 100 no's, and that's okay, But I think I would try for sure. And then I think if I get those no's, then, I'll just reevaluate to see if I think it's good enough. Did I have fun, and am I proud of it? And then if I am, then, I would explore the self-publishing for sure.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's the thing with, I would assume, you don't, I don't think you're a genre writer, right? Like, you don't write, like, science fiction or fantasy or any of that dross and drivel, right?
No, I tend to... I have so many interests that, like, I don't think I have just one lane that I stick to.
Put them all in,
Yeah, exactly.
I've got werewolves and vampires and demons and all kinds of horrible things running around in my... I don't care. It's whatever. No, I'm kidding, though. Obviously, you know your art better than I do. Yeah, but I mean, like, your novella and all that stuff. I mean, like, would it be more literary fiction,
Yeah, well, there's two. The one would be more literary fiction, and then the other one is actually a horror story.
Interesting.
And I know it's two very different things, but that's kind of how my mind works. I think I've been blessed and cursed with a mind that kind of understands and enjoys everything.
Yeah.
And by understand, I don't mean like knowledge. I just mean like I, enjoy learning about so much, and I enjoy so many different types of genres that
you can enjoy Edgar Allan Poe's beautiful writing, and you can also watch, Rhea Ripley beat up Nia Jax.
That's exactly it.
There you go. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
The spectrum of art and trash art.
Yes.
Like just
absolutely.
That's where I live. I swim between those two extremes. Nothing in the middle. I can't roll with that. If it ain't Trauma or it's not Robert Eggers, I don't want it. Get it out of here. Get that out of here. That Wolfman 2025, get that out of here. We don't got time for that Blumhouse trash. No. But that's the thing. Like self-publishing it's a rough beast. It's definitely worth it to try to find an agent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The worst they could say is no.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm very used to hearing no, so it wouldn't hurt, I would just, I guess, keep trying.
There's nothing more brave than submitting your writing to be judged by someone,
Very true.
I do try to send out rejection letters. People don't always take it very well, but I do try to send them out because some of the best criticism I've gotten was in those rejection letters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's very hard to find a workshop group, like...
Yeah, and it's better to hear no than nothing,
Well, yeah, I think that sometimes... I've gotten a lot of form letters over the years, so in those cases I'd rather just have heard nothing, but you are right. It's better to hear no than nothing. That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Do you have any, like, tools, any special tools that you use for your writing? Besides, like, Microsoft Word, do you play with, I forget what it's called. Do you play with any of that?
So as of right now, no. Yeah. So it's basic, and actually it's even less. It's Google Docs right now. It's Google Docs, and then I'll save it like as
it works
as a Word. But it's funny you should say that. Like last night, I think I had an ad pop up. It was like Scrivener, which I was like looking into. I saw somebody else like using some kind of tool, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I looked at it, and it was like $40, and I was like, I don't think I want to pay for it right now.
I don't play with none of that. It's all overpriced garbage, pandering to people's need to be validated. Oh, I'm a writer. I spend money on it. It must be real. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I was
perfect.
asking about. I was
Yeah.
wondering if like you delved into that and found any fulfillment because people do, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I feel better now because I don't.
Yeah.
And I do like, it's not perfect, but like I pride myself on kind of knowing how to set things up and how to edit and whatnot.
Yeah.
As an ELA teacher, English teacher, I should say, like, if I can't edit something,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
something wrong with me.
What are you even doing, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure things slip by, but for the most part, I do know what I'm looking for.
No, the only things sure in life are death and typos, you know. So,
Exactly.
for sure. No, I pride myself on my editing too. Honestly, there's a lot you could do with just Microsoft Word. I mean, I have a lot of
That's it.
presets and stuff. I don't understand the need for all this like specialized novel writing software. It's like get out of here. People
I
they
agree.
sell them for D&D and stuff. It's like just do it all in Word. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? You know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any words of wisdom for our viewers, readers, etc? Anything that you'd like to share?
I think the only thing that is wise that I can say that, and I kind of said it before, is just, if you are looking to write or if you're looking honestly to do anything, right? Just have fun doing it and do it. Don't think about it, right? If you're thinking about it, that means that you're not doing it, if and that means you're not enjoying it, so, like to be honest with you, like before I started writing for the website PW Insider, I was sitting there and I was just like, man, I wish I can write for PW Insider. What can I do? And here's the thing, they're not going to call me. I have to go to them. So all I did was just simply write something, and I didn't even ask them. I just sent it to them and I said, hey, no pressure. Take a look at this. If you're interested, feel free to use it. You're not going to pay me, or at least not right now, but feel free to use it. And they looked at it and they were like, cool, we will use it. And then next thing you know, without even asking, I sent more and more and more. And then they started asking, and I enjoy doing it. So I went after it. That's what I recommend. Just have fun. Whatever you want to do. It does not have to be writing. It can be any form of art. It can even be, I want to get into video games. Start playing video games then. And just have fun doing it. And it's going to be a good experience if you give it a try.
Yeah, and I think building on that, I mean, like a lot of websites, they do have a pitching process, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, crack.com, I know they have like a forum you can join and you can pitch articles. Yeah, there's no reason why if you're a writer and you're like, hey, I can do something to build a CV, like chances are they're taking submissions or at least pitches. So yeah, that's fair. And I think that's really inspirational, frankly, that this was a site you followed for years and now you're like, hey, I'm writing for it now. I'm part of the team, as it were, right? It's
Yeah.
not the New Yorker, right? But
Exactly.
who cares? The New Yorker
Right.
sucks. They have unfunny cartoons.
Yeah.
Are there any books you wish you'd written?
Every single one. Even the bad ones. Or the unpopular ones. Because you know what? They did it and I didn't.
Even the
Honestly-
even the Dean Koontz novels.
Something, he did it and I didn't, so.
He's out there making it happen.
yeah.
He's the Jay Leno of literature.
Exactly.
That's funny.
But like in all honesty, like it is the truth, like every single, I go to Barnes and Noble or I try to go to local ones, but there's just not enough of them.
Yeah.
But like I'll pick up a book and I read the back and it sounds like something I don't want any part of. Then I put it down and I say to myself, could have been you, And so I do. I wasn't, I laughed at myself just now, but just off the cuff. I really truly do wish every single book out there was something that I gave a try. To give you I guess a better answer, I think of things again, just like going back to like my favorite authors and the books that really inspired me. If I could have written Catcher in the Rye, it's the
Yeah.
book, it's the stereotypical high school choice, but it's the book truly that inspired me, and it's the book that everybody kind of, goes to and everybody has an opinion on. It's either it inspired me and I loved it, or man, that's so stereotypical, but everybody knows it and everybody has an opinion, and J.D. Salinger did that. That's something that is amazing.
Yeah.
And again, maybe that's going towards more of the popularity choice. I think of books like A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, which I will give that credit for getting me back into reading, even though I'm an ELA teacher and I should be reading all the time. But I took a break from reading fiction because I was doing my master's and I was just reading textbooks for years and years and years. So like I was like, what, I'm so focused on the work that I just stopped reading fiction for a little bit. And then when I was finally done with my master's, the first book that I picked up was A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. And I was like, this is, I've been missing fiction so much. And I just love that book because it's gross and it's weird and it's out there and it's so ambiguous at the end that my girlfriend and I actually had a very in-depth conversation because neither of us saw it the same way.
Yeah.
And to this day, she still doesn't see it the way that I do. And I think that's beautiful because we can probably politely argue about it for the rest of our lives, And because she sees it the way she sees it, she actually doesn't like the book. And because I see it the way I see it, I absolutely adore the book. And we'll never probably be on the same page. And that's amazing. And I wish I can do that to people with my writing, So yeah, it's books like that really come to mind where I'm like, oh, I wish I had that ability.
Yeah. I think it was To Kill a Mockingbird, the movie. I think Walt Disney saw that and he was like, man, I want to make movies like that. People fucking... Because good art should challenge you, Me and my boyfriend, we read this book called The Strange Case of Doctor Strange and Mr. Norrell. And it was this long, bizarre, giant, profoundly British novel about sorcerers, kind of, and a fairy, maybe. It was very political, it was very weird, and we carried it around for months on end reading it because it was so long, and I still don't really know what to say about it. It was just a very weird novel. I'm reading a book called Mordieu right now that takes place in a weird world where I think everyone lives on a giant dead god. Getting back to Catcher in the Rye, I mean, like, that was a novel I didn't understand when I was in high school. I was like, what's this kid's problem? As an adult, I'm like, yeah, everyone's a phony. Fuck the world. Yeah. Get out of here. And that's the key thing. I mean, like, I started a website and just started, like, hitting people up on Instagram, and before I knew it, I had a bunch of people helping me and stuff. It didn't take much. It just took some will. And, a lot of what you're saying resonates, and I think that it's inspirational for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like...
Appreciate that.
You just got to try, You just got to try. It's better than not trying,
Absolutely.
I think that's about it. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Anything else you wanted to get out there or talk about?
Honestly, I just wanted to kind of thank you. I'm extremely appreciative, not just for sitting down with me today, but, you took the time to read my story, which, I'll be honest with you, when I sent it, I wasn't sure. Because I know only one person had read that story besides me, and they said it was okay. And I don't know if I truly believed in it, to be honest with you. And it's a story that I think is a little bit risky to talk about. Now that it is out there and thanks to you published, I've worked up the guts to actually send it to a few other people to kind of for multiple reasons. Number one, let them know that I did this, hey, I did this. And number two, to get you some hits on the website.
And
for the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And it's a story where people actually are like, wow, this is pretty good. And also, are you okay? And I said, yes, it's this, that story's not me. I mean, there's elements of me in that story, but...
Well, anything you write it's coming out of you. There is a certain aspect of it, but I don't think you're there,
Right. No, exactly. And, and I just wanted to, it's a story where I was actually trying to just talk about that topic and maybe get some eyes on it, and it's been amazing. So I wanted to thank you. I am very appreciative to have that story out there. I'm very appreciative to be on here now as well. You gave me two things I've never done before, and that's have a story out there in the world and also show my ugly mug to whoever's watching this.
Hey, now, you can't say that stuff about yourself. You need at least one person in your corner.
That's
well, at any rate, thanks for being with us. I mean, you've been great. Matt Ten-Hoeve, please read his story, A Happy Choice, link below. Read it or I'll come get you. Yeah. Write poetry, make art, love your demons, Ave Satanis. Hey, thanks so much for watching that. Our writers are the lifeblood of what we do here, and you know, I really hope that something, inspired you from what they said, because they've all been very insightful and fascinating in their own way. Listen, we do take submissions. We are quarterly, and, if you want to know when our physical edition is coming out or when our digital edition is open for submissions, please check us out on Instagram, link below, or go to our website. We're usually pretty loud about it. Also, if you want to support us, if you join our Patreon at the $1, level, or any level really, I will personally send you one of these really cool stickers. And they're pretty big, they're pretty high quality, so, put them on your car, put them on your back, put them on your wall, I don't know, put them somewhere. Or head over to Great Satan's Emporium and buy a super cool mug or a t-shirt and, support us. It helps to support independent art. And, well, stay tuned for what comes next. Most likely more interviews and always more Demon Toast episodes and episodes of Monster Fangs as well. So, Ave Satanis.